There is a level of strength that does not come from noise, validation, or external power. It comes from an inner knowing so deep that it reshapes how you walk, speak, decide, and endure. Acting as if God is within you is not imagination, it is alignment. It is the moment you stop begging the world for direction and start moving with quiet certainty, knowing that wisdom, restraint, and discernment are already present inside you. Most people live as if God is distant, far away, external, unreachable. They wait for signs, permission, reassurance. But when you act as if God is within you, your behavior changes before your circumstances do. You stop panicking, you stop reacting impulsively, you stop lowering your standards to fit chaos. Your life becomes guided not by fear, but by inner order. This mindset is not about ego or self-worship, it is about responsibility. When you believe God is within you, you become careful with your actions. You weigh your words, you pause before responding. You act with integrity even when no one is watching. Not because you are afraid of punishment, but because you respect the presence you carry. People who move this way don't rush decisions, they don't chase attention, they don't explain themselves endlessly. Their calm is not emptiness, it is reverence. They understand that carrying divine awareness means carrying discipline, patience, and restraint. And that restraint becomes visible. Others may not understand it, but they feel it. When you act as if God is within you, you stop outsourcing your power. You don't wait to be saved from your own inaction. You don't complain about circumstances you refuse to rise above. You understand that guidance comes through stillness, not desperation. Through clarity, not chaos. Through obedience to inner truth, not pressure from the outside. This awareness changes how you handle conflict. You no longer fight to be right. You choose to be aligned. You no longer react emotionally. You respond deliberately. You allow silence to speak because you trust that truth does not need force. And in that trust, you gain authority that cannot be challenged. There is a quiet confidence that forms when you live this way. You don't announce your faith. You embody it. Your presence feels grounded. Your decisions feel measured. Your boundaries feel firm but calm. People sense that you are not easily shaken, not because life is easy for you, but because something deeper steadies you. Acting as if God is within you means you treat your body, your time, and your energy with respect. You don't abuse yourself through overreaction, resentment, or fear. You move as if you are accountable to something higher, not outside of you, but alive within you. This is where transformation begins, not in dramatic moments, but in quiet discipline, in choosing integrity when shortcuts are available, in choosing calm when chaos invites reaction, in choosing trust when fear demands control. This message is not for those looking for motivation alone. It is for those ready to carry responsibility, restraint, and inner authority. Because once you act as if God is within you, you cannot live casually anymore. Your life becomes intentional. When you begin to act as if God is within you, your behavior shifts before your circumstances ever do. You don't need an audience to behave with integrity. You don't need pressure to do what is right. Your decisions are no longer driven by impulse or emotion, but by an inner standard that does not change depending on who is watching. This is where true discipline is born, not from fear, but from reverence. You become more deliberate with your actions. Small choices start to matter because you understand that character is built quietly, not publicly. How you speak when frustrated, how you act when tempted, how you respond when provoked, these moments become sacred tests of alignment. You no longer ask, "Can I get away with this?" You ask, "Does this honor what I carry within me?" This awareness also slows you down in the best way. You stop rushing decisions out of anxiety. You stop reacting to situations that don't require immediate response. Patience becomes natural, not forced. You trust timing because you trust guidance. Acting as if God is within you means you no longer panic about outcomes. You focus on obedience to what feels right. Your words become fewer but heavier. You stop speaking to fill silence and start speaking with intention. You listen more, you observe more, you recognize that wisdom often comes through restraint, not expression. This doesn't make you passive, it makes you precise. When you do speak, it carries weight because it comes from clarity, not emotion. Even your posture toward life changes. You walk differently. You handle stress differently. You don't collapse under pressure because you don't feel alone in it. There is an internal steadiness that holds you upright when circumstances try to pull you down. This steadiness is not arrogance, it is trust. Daily discipline becomes less about forcing habits and more about honoring presence. You take care of your body because it houses something sacred. You guard your mind because thoughts shape direction. You protect your time because waste now feels like disrespect, not convenience. This is how spiritual awareness becomes practical structure. You also become less reactive to people. You stop matching energy. You stop engaging in emotional tug-of-war. When others are chaotic, you remain composed. Not because you are indifferent, but because you are anchored. Acting as if God is within you means you do not let external noise disturb internal order. Over time, this way of living becomes effortless. What once required discipline becomes natural. Calm replaces urgency. Discernment replaces impulsivity. You don't have to remind yourself who you are. You live it consistently. This is how faith turns into behavior. Not through declarations, but through daily alignment. And alignment is what sustains transformation. When you act as if God is within you, fear no longer has the same authority over your decisions. Fear still appears, but it no longer commands. Instead of reacting to it, you observe it. You understand that fear is often a signal, not a sentence. It points to areas where trust is required, where growth is near, and where faith must become action. This awareness keeps fear from shrinking you. You move forward carefully, but you still move. Uncertainty also changes its meaning. Before, uncertainty may have felt like danger or loss of control. Now it becomes a space for trust. Acting as if God is within you allows you to remain steady even when outcomes are unclear. You stop demanding guarantees from life. You focus on alignment instead of certainty. And in doing so, you gain peace even when answers have not yet arrived. Temptation loses much of its grip because your inner dialogue shifts. You are no longer negotiating with impulses, you are honoring presence. You pause before acting, not out of guilt, but out of respect for what you carry. The question becomes internal and quiet. Does this move me closer to who I am becoming? That single pause dissolves many temptations before they gain momentum. This mindset also removes the urgency that fear and temptation rely on. Fear wants immediate reaction. Temptation wants immediate satisfaction. Acting as if God is within you introduces space between impulse and action. In that space, wisdom speaks. And wisdom, when listened to, consistently chooses what sustains you over what excites you momentarily. You also become less afraid of being alone in your decisions. Many people give in to fear or temptation because they feel unsupported. But when you live within a divine awareness, you no longer feel abandoned in difficult moments. You feel accompanied. This inner companionship strengthens resolve. You don't need constant reassurance because you trust that guidance is present, even in silence. As fear loosens its grip, courage becomes quieter but stronger. You don't need dramatic confidence. You simply do what needs to be done. You make difficult choices calmly. You walk away from what compromises you without announcing it. This quiet courage is stable. It doesn't fluctuate with mood or approval. Uncertainty no longer paralyzes you because you stop interpreting it as absence. You understand that not knowing is part of growth, not evidence of being lost. Acting as if God is within you means you trust that clarity unfolds through movement, not hesitation. You take the next right step, even if the full path is not visible. This way of living does not eliminate challenges, it transforms your relationship with them. Fear becomes a teacher instead of a threat. Temptation becomes a test instead of a trap. Uncertainty becomes a space of trust instead of anxiety. And through each experience, your inner authority deepens. This is how inner faith becomes lived strength, not loud, not dramatic, but unwavering. When you act as if God is within you, discernment becomes sharper and self-control becomes natural. You no longer rely on surface impressions or emotional reactions to guide your choices. Instead, you develop a quiet sensitivity to what aligns and what does not. You feel when something is off, even when it looks right on the outside. This inner awareness keeps you from many mistakes before they ever form. Discernment is not suspicion, it is clarity. It allows you to see people, situations, and opportunities without projection. You stop assuming good intentions where there is misalignment, and you stop fearing where there is no threat. Acting as if God is within you tunes your perception. You begin to notice patterns, timing, and energy rather than getting caught in appearances. Self-control also changes meaning. It is no longer about suppressing desires or forcing discipline. It becomes an act of respect. You respect your future enough not to sabotage it in the present. You respect your peace enough not to trade it for momentary satisfaction. This respect makes restraint feel empowering instead of restrictive. You begin to respond instead of react. When provoked, you pause. When tempted, you breathe. When pressured, you remain still. This pause is where discernment lives. It allows you to choose consciously rather than impulsively. Most people lose control because they never slow down enough to hear inner guidance. You, however, learn to wait, and waiting protects you. This awareness also changes how you deal with people. You stop over-explaining yourself. You stop trying to convince others of your intentions. You allow behavior to reveal truth over time. Acting as if God is within you means you trust the process of revelation. You don't rush clarity, you will let it unfold. You also become more selective with access. Not everyone gets your energy, your time, or your vulnerability. Discernment teaches you that boundaries are not walls, they are filters. They protect what is sacred without hostility. You say less, observe more, and move with intention. Self-control strengthens your presence. Others sense that you are not easily influenced, not easily provoked, and not easily rushed. This creates a quiet authority around you. People may not know why they respect you, but they do. Stability commands trust. Over time, this discipline becomes effortless. You don't feel deprived, you feel protected, you don't feel restricted, you feel aligned. Discernment and self-control stop being skills you practice and become traits you embody. This is the power of inner awareness. It guards you from chaos without force and guides you without noise. When you act as if God is within you, your relationships begin to transform in quiet but undeniable ways. You stop seeking connection through validation and start offering presence through stability. This shift changes the type of people who feel comfortable around you. Some grow closer, others grow distant. Both responses reveal truth, and you no longer resist either outcome. You become less reactive to emotional triggers in others. When someone projects insecurity, anger, or confusion onto you, you don't absorb it. You recognize that their behavior belongs to them. Acting from inner awareness allows you to remain compassionate without becoming entangled. You can care without carrying what is not yours to carry. Communication also becomes cleaner. You no longer feel the need to explain every decision or justify every boundary. You speak when clarity is needed and remain silent when explanation would invite misunderstanding. This creates respect, even if it creates distance. You understand that not all connections are meant to be close, and that closeness without alignment leads to exhaustion. You also stop tolerating subtle disrespect. Inner awareness sharpens your sense of self-worth. You notice when behavior crosses a line, even if it's disguised as humor or concern. Instead of reacting emotionally, you adjust your proximity. Distance becomes your response, not confrontation. This protects your peace without escalating conflict. Relationships that are rooted in control or dependency begin to dissolve. People who relied on your reactions, your emotional availability, or your constant reassurance feel unsettled. You don't argue or explain, you simply change. And change often speaks louder than words. At the same time, relationships grounded in mutual respect deepen. Calm attracts maturity. People who value clarity, integrity, and growth recognize themselves in you. Conversations become more meaningful, interactions become lighter. You are no longer drained by connection, you are nourished by it. Acting as if God is within you also teaches you when to walk alone. You stop fearing solitude because you no longer feel empty in it. You feel guided, supported, and aligned even when no one else is present. This makes you less likely to settle for companionship that compromises your peace. Over time, your relational world becomes smaller but stronger. Fewer misunderstandings, fewer emotional drains, more alignment, more respect. You stop trying to be understood by everyone and start being known by those who truly see you. This is how inner awareness reshapes relationships, not by force, but by clarity. When you act as if God is within you, purpose stops feeling distant or abstract. It becomes something you live daily rather than something you search for endlessly. You no longer wait for dramatic signs or perfect clarity before moving forward. Instead, you trust that direction reveals itself through obedience to what feels right in the present moment. Purpose becomes a path you walk, not a destination you chase. This inner awareness sharpens your sense of direction. You begin to recognize which opportunities align with your growth and which ones merely distract you. Not everything that looks good is meant for you. Acting from within gives you the patience to wait and the courage to decline. You stop scattering your energy across too many directions and start concentrating it where it truly matters. You also become more resilient when progress feels slow. Purpose-driven living is not always exciting. Sometimes it is repetitive, quiet, and unseen. But when you trust that God is within you, you don't interpret slowness as failure. You understand that depth takes time. You stay committed even when external results lag behind internal growth. Doubt loses its ability to derail you. Questions still arise, but they no longer immobilize you. You acknowledge uncertainty without surrendering direction. Acting as if God is within you teaches you to move forward with humility and confidence at the same time. You don't pretend to know everything, but you trust enough to take the next step. This mindset also protects you from comparison. You stop measuring your journey against someone else's timeline. You understand that purpose unfolds uniquely. What matters is alignment, not speed. When you remain anchored internally, external success no longer defines your worth or progress. Your actions begin to feel intentional rather than reactive. You are less influenced by trends, pressure, or urgency. You make decisions that honor long-term integrity rather than short-term approval. This consistency builds momentum. Over time, small aligned actions compound into meaningful progress. Even setbacks take on a different meaning. Instead of seeing them as detours, you see them as refinements. Acting from within allows you to extract wisdom from difficulty. Without losing direction, you adjust, not abandon. You learn, not retreat. Purpose in this way becomes steady and sustainable. You are no longer driven by fear of missing out or the need to prove yourself. You are guided by inner conviction, and conviction, when nurtured, becomes a powerful compass. This is how purpose strengthens, not through pressure, but through alignment with what you carry within. When you consistently act as if God is within you, your character begins to refine itself quietly, without performance. You no longer need external rules to keep you aligned because your inner standard is active. Integrity stops being situational and becomes habitual. You do the right thing even when it costs you comfort, recognition, or convenience. Not because you are trying to appear righteous, but because misalignment now feels heavier than sacrifice. Authority grows from this place. Not authority that demands attention, but authority that settles rooms. People sense that you are not easily moved by pressure, praise, or provocation. You don't rush to assert yourself, and you don't shrink to maintain peace. You stand firm without force. This kind of authority cannot be taught through words alone. It is formed through repeated inner obedience. Your reactions become rarer and more intentional. You don't waste emotional energy on proving points or defending your ego. When conflict arises, you listen before responding. When false narratives form, you allow truth to reveal itself over time. Acting as if God is within you teaches you patience with outcomes and confidence in truth. You understand that character outlives explanation. This awareness also disciplines your pride. You remain humble, not because you doubt yourself, but because you understand where your strength comes from. You don't overestimate your control, and you don't underestimate your responsibility. You stay teachable, grounded, and alert. Humility becomes a strength, not a weakness, because it keeps you aligned. Leadership, whether visible or quiet, begins to emerge naturally. People look to you for stability, not answers. They trust your presence even when they don't fully understand your methods. You don't manipulate influence. You earn it through consistency. Acting as if God is within you means you lead first by example, not instruction. Your character also becomes less reactive to praise. Compliments no longer inflate you, and criticism no longer destabilizes you. You remain centered. This emotional neutrality is not detachment, it is balance. You appreciate feedback without being ruled by it. Your identity stays intact. Over time, you become predictable in the best way. People know where you stand because you stand the same way everywhere. There is no fragmentation between your private self and your public self. This congruence creates trust, and trust is the foundation of real authority. This refinement is subtle, but its effects are lasting. You don't announce your growth. Others experience it. You don't demand respect. It forms around you. Acting as if God is within you shapes character that speaks even when you are silent. There comes a point where acting as if God is within you no longer feels like a mindset you practiced, but a truth you live from. You stop feeling like a visitor in your own life and begin living as a vessel, aware, accountable, and intentional. Your days are no longer fragmented by impulse and regret. They are shaped by presence. You move with a quiet awareness that every choice matters, not because of fear, but because of meaning. In this final stage, you no longer look outside yourself for confirmation that you are on the right path. You feel it. Your conscience is clear. Your actions are consistent. Even when life is uncertain, your inner state is settled. You understand that peace does not come from having control over everything, but from trusting what guides you from within. You stop performing faith and start embodying it. There is no need to announce what you believe or explain how aligned you are. Your behavior speaks. Your restraint speaks. Your consistency speaks. People may not hear your convictions, but they see the results of them. This is where faith becomes visible without words. You also accept responsibility at a deeper level. You stop blaming circumstances for who you are becoming. You stop waiting for conditions to improve before you improve. Acting as if God is within you means you take ownership of your thoughts, your reactions, and your direction. You understand that growth is not passive, it is chosen daily. Life does not become perfect at this level, but it becomes purposeful. Challenges still appear, but they no longer feel meaningless. You extract wisdom instead of resentment. You respond instead of retreating. You trust that nothing you face is wasted. When you remain aligned, in this close-up you realize something profound. You are never truly alone. Not in decisions, not in struggle, not in silence. This awareness removes desperation from your life. You no longer chase fulfillment, you cultivate it. You no longer seek strength, you live from it. Your presence becomes calm, steady, and grounded. You are no longer easily provoked, easily swayed, or easily distracted. You move carefully, speak deliberately, and live intentionally. Not because you are trying to be spiritual, but because you are aware. This is the life shaped by inner awareness, a life of discipline without rigidity, faith without noise, strength without force. You don't need to prove anything, you simply live as someone who knows what they carry. Act as if God is within you, not as an idea, but as a responsibility, and let that awareness guide every step forward.